Hello Linux lovers, my name's Wimpy.
Hello
Welcome
Linux
to my
lovers.
world. My name's Wimpy.
Hello
Welcome
Linux
to my
lovers.
world.
That
My
isn't
name's
why.
Wimpy.
Hello
Welcome
Linux
to my
lovers.
world.
That
My
isn't
name's
why.
Wimpy.
Hello
Welcome
Linux
to my
lovers.
world.
That
My
isn't
name's
why.
Wimpy.
Hello
Welcome
Linux
to my
lovers.
world.
That
My
isn't
name's
why.
Wimpy.
Hello
Welcome
Linux
to my
lovers.
world. Oh, problem found. There we go. Sorry about that. Random tab in another browser. That's where that was coming from. I was going to say, went to great lengths to configure the audio not to do that. Right. No Visual Studio Code tonight. No Git Kraken tonight. No development tonight. It's all about OBS Studio. Sorry about that audio feedback. I should have checked for that. Right then. So, as some of you who are here will know, I've been doing live streams since the event, and I've learned some OBS tricks along the way. And I know some of you here have been keen to learn more about how I've done some of that. So, full confession, I had started making some videos, some short videos about this, and some of you will also know I built a new computer recently. Managed to corrupt my video files in building the new machine, so I've had to start from scratch there. And I thought, instead of burning a couple more weeks whilst I re-record some of that stuff, I thought I'd do this now and touch on some of the highlights of the top tips I've got for OBS Studio on Linux. And I will see what questions that throws up, and it'll also help me put together some more sort of deeper dive videos to cover some of the topics in more detail. So we'll just bring up the chat. So hello everyone, welcome. It's a little less crazy than last night, but thank you all for joining. There's a lot of familiar faces. Hello Jamie, TC, Paul, Joshua again, Ali, Craig, our podcast. This one's just for you, right? You've been waiting on this for a long time. I hope if you've got questions, feel free to ask. I will try and keep up with the questions as they come in. So I'm going to run through a few things. I'm going to take a look at OBS itself, how I'm using a very particular Linux build of OBS Studio. How I'm organising the audio, excusing my little faux pas at the beginning there, how I organise scenes and things, and then a little bit about the hardware I'm using. And in the description below, you'll find a link to our Discord. And after this live stream, I'll be hopping in that Discord, and there's a community centre voice chat. So I'll drop in there, and if you've got any follow-on questions or anything, then we can have a conversation in there afterwards. So if you're not signed up to the Discord, you can go and get joined up now. So thank you for everyone stopping by. Welcome back, one and all. Wow, there's some new faces. Hello. Podcast Ubuntu Portugal. Wow, it was only just over a year ago we were in Sintra enjoying UbuCon. Remember that, when people used to travel and meet each other and hug and stuff? Right then. I can't remember how I've left this, but let's go with this. So I'm obviously using OBS to do this stream, but I've also got OBS here as well. So that's interesting, right? So what we're going to do is we're just going to start with a quick look at what I'm using here. So some of you may know that my day job, I work for Canonical, work on the desktop team. Prior to that, in fact, I still work on the Snackcraft team as well. I shouldn't say prior to that, I still work on the Snackcraft team. I lead both those teams, in fact. So I ostensibly maintain the OBS Studio snap along with my good friend and colleague Alan Pope. So I am doing all of this with the snap of OBS Studio, which has a number of cool things baked into it. First of all, for some considerable time now, this snap has had browser sources enabled, so it's got the Ceph components built in, so you can add browser sources, which is a very powerful feature and really unlocks a lot of the capabilities that I've been able to use in OBS. And it's got full hardware encoding, so it doesn't matter whether you've got an NVIDIA GPU or an AMD GPU or an Intel CPU with hardware accelerated IGP for H.264 encoding. All of those things are available And in fact, this snap also includes StreamFX, which is a bunch of filters to do some cool 3D transformations and what have you, but also exposes a bunch of additional hardware codecs. So, for example, it's got a more complete tunable NVENC encoder for NVIDIA, and it also provides ProRes for recording. So if I'm streaming and recording locally, I can record locally in one of 4 different ProRes formats, so you can get a more or less lossless, local copy, which is very useful. And then Move Transitions is a filter I use. It's the thing that I use to do this with. This stuff here where we pop things left and right. So that's the Move Transition. And it has WebSockets, which is what my tablet is talking to, in order for me to push the screen on my tablet and make these things ping backwards and forwards. And it also has the advanced scene switcher, which automates some bits and pieces, so I don't actually have to push those buttons all the time. So it's the OBS Snap. That will work on all major Linux distributions. I've got friends that are running it on Arch and Fedora and various other things. So it's a hassle-free way of getting like a fully loaded sort of OBS Studio. And in fact, if I just get on the right virtual screen, and I'll get to virtual screens later, here's an overview of some of the things that are in here. I suppose another plugin that people will be interested in is the NDI plugin is built into it as well. So there's a bunch of stuff in there. Now I see there are some things in chat. I'm just going to try and catch up with chat. Last night it was a bit mental and I struggled a bit. I'm going to try and do better this evening. Right, okay, Ubuntu Portugal, I hope I can be of assistance. So our podcast, your first question of the night, I'm expecting more of these. How have you got your OBS hotkeys set up and with the Elgato Stream Deck? I'll get into that a bit later. I will cover some of that because I've also got a fork of Stream Deck UI for Linux. Let me just click on a thing. One moment. Let me just drag this down. Here it is. This is what's so if I just let's push some buttons as you've asked the question. So if I just go to the overhead camera, which I've activated by pushing my tablet, you will see my Stream Deck is here. And now if I come back here, you'll see a representation of what is on my Stream Deck here. And mostly I use the Stream Deck when I'm streaming to control the music. Is basically what I use it for. And I'll get to that a bit later. So I'll just minimize that away. So I use the tablet for scene switching, and I use the Stream Deck for controlling the audio. So hopefully I've answered some of those questions at least. Someone said the Snap is brilliant. Good, I'm glad you think so. Sorry I can't say hello to everyone this evening, but hello, welcome back all of you. So Corinzan Gamer says, so the Snap uses the new NVENC chip that the new NVIDIA GPUs have. It uses NVENC if it's on any NVIDIA GPU that supports NVENC. So I've used this on 10 series, 20 series and 30 series NVIDIA GPUs just fine. And I know other people are using it on the 9 series as well. Yes, Gear Seekers, you should absolutely try this Snap out. It's the bee's knees. As I've been getting into streaming, I've been developing this OBS Snap as I go in order to... I've been following like other streamers that do really good quality streams and picking up tips of what they've been using to make their streams good, and where possible building those capabilities into the Snap. So Jonathan Madden, oh, not again with your your introductions. Welcome back. Keep this up every time you join the stream with a new novel way of introducing yourself. I dare you. Right, okay. Hey, Henrik. Is it easy to add more plugins? Yes, it is, in fact. If I just go here, so there was a plugin that we did build into the Snap for a while, and it was causing a huge performance problem, so we dropped it. But it was popular. So if I just, this is the GitHub where the Snap is maintained. And down here, you will see third-party plugins, and it explains how you can, if there's a plugin you want that isn't built in by default, you can go and download it, and this explains where to place it so that it can just be used inside the Snap. So that's a great question. Thank you for asking that one. George Castro is interested in Stream Deck UI as well. Okay, maybe I'll go back to the Stream Deck thing first, in which case, and I'll explain what we're doing there with the tablet and the Stream Deck, as there's a couple of you that are interested in that. Let's clear that off at the start. And let's also just whack a terminal behind there. There we go. So I also noticed beer. Yes, beer and other stuff. Yes, there is beer on my desk because it's officially beer o'clock, and I have a prop for when I get to hardware a bit later. Right, let's have a look then. See if I can actually read the larger chat there. Okay. I have to check out how to use the tablet. Yes, so I'll get to that. I will cover that in just a little bit more detail in a second. Stream Deck UI, yeah. Okay, so there's several people interested in the Stream Deck thing. Right then, we'll cover that. So our podcast says, do you use NVENC for streaming or recording or both? I use NVENC for streaming because I have an NVIDIA GPU. And I was using NVENC with a different profile for recording, just at a higher bit rate. But since I played around with StreamFX and found that it can record locally using ProRes, I now record locally using ProRes, because then if I want to edit some stuff together, I've got higher quality footage to edit with. Okay. And Tech Designs, thanks for the kind words. Mr. Madden, challenge accepted indeed. Well done. Okay. Right. Okay. So let's start with how I'm controlling this. So I'll start with the Stream Deck. So we kind of touched on that. So let's just bring up a browser here. There we go. I'll cut to the chase here because this could go on a little bit. So I have forked a project. I think it's. Oh, let's just find it here. It's here we go. Stream Deck UI. So you can see here where I forked it from. Here's the original project. This was getting quite a lot of attention at the back end of last year, and from New Year this year it hasn't really seen much development other than documentation changes, and there were some bugs. So I cherry picked some fixes. So this is like this is where the point at which I forked it, and then I cherry picked some fixes that other people have contributed that haven't had their pull requests merged yet. And then I put a few fixes in of my own as well. And that is this little gizmo here. I'll just bring it down. That's this. So this is a UI for configuring the Stream Deck on Linux. So that's my first page. And it's got some basic bits and pieces. There's a thing here, if I just push that. I've got a thing here to reset my stats, and there's a new feature in OBS 26 to take a screenshot of what's being rendered, and I'll get back to why I have that there. So this is here and it works very nicely. Just flip the order there a little bit. But there are caveats. So, for example, I'll demonstrate how I use this. So this is my audio setup, so I can skip tracks, for example. If I push the button, you will see the album art changes as the track skips. and I can also fade the audio. So I'm at 27%, so I'll just fade it to 50, so volume comes up, and then I'll fade it down again. Now the way those are working is through some scripts that I have written. So I have written a little script here called Spotify volume, and if I drag this window from all the way over here down, here is a terminal where I have a couple of bits running, which has got all my Spotify integrations running. So if you look at that terminal, if I'll just tweak the volume a second again, you can see there it's fading the volume up, fading the volume down. So I'll get into why that's more clever than it might at first appear in a moment. And then this other little piece here is running that looks talks to dbus and looks at the Spotify client, and as the tracks change, pulls in the album art, puts them in a location that OBS is looking at to generate these little animations. So that's what that all does there. And I'll just join this up a little bit. I'll just move that off here. It went back where it came from, over on the other screen. So if I'll bring up OBS in a moment. I'll show how that audio is configured in a moment. Now, there's one drawback with this stuff here, and that's that the window that you want to send key presses to has to be focused. Otherwise, the key presses don't reach the window. So this is a limitation where you can't send key presses as a global event. Or at least this app can't. It's a complex thing to do. I've been here before, but I have got some examples of. I think I've got an example where I've got a key press in here somewhere. I haven't hooked them up anywhere, have I? Bother. Yes, I have. Here we go. So my solution to this problem is I wrote a little utility called Stream Deck Send Keys, and what that does is you pass it two parameters: one, a string or regular expression to define the window title that you want to be brought into focus, and then the key combination that you want to send it. And in 24 milliseconds this will focus the window, send the key presses to it, and then focus the window that was focused prior to doing that switcheroo. So that's my little workaround for that, and these are sort of the deeper dives that I'll get into when I get into this stuff with the individual videos. So I imagine there is some, I'm just looking, dark mode, right, just catching up. Oh, unfortunate. Welcome, Yannick, anyway. It doesn't matter that you're late. You can just sit in the corner for a moment and contemplate what you've done. Is there simply a keyboard mapping to press them? So hopefully our podcast, I've answered like broadly how that Stream Deck stuff works. And I'll just switch that back to where I need it for the audio. Good evening, everyone. Right, okay. Yannick says when he grows up he wants to be Martin Wimpy. You really don't. When I grow up I want to be me as well, but me with a whole lot of spare time. Is that what we call retirement? I'm looking forward to retirement, I think. Imagine all the things we can get done when we've got nothing to do. It'd be great. Right, so that was a quick look at how I'm controlling this. Oh, and so I suppose what I'll do is I'll flip over now to OBS itself, and this is where things are going to start getting a little bit freaky. So let's just put that away, the chat away to one side. So we are looking at an OBS configuration here. So this is how I have OBS configured. So you can see my scenes here, and as you can see I have quite a lot, and I sort of have a convention for naming them. The ones at the top here are the scenes that I push buttons on the tablet to transition between, and then the others have prefixes for their purpose. Some of them are automatic transitions, and I'll get to how I do that in a moment, and others are just nested scenes. And this is the thing I did some streams with Popey over Christmas and New Year last year, and I wish I'd known about nested scenes when I did it. Create everything as a scene and then embed those scenes in other scenes. It makes organising your stuff so much easier. Yes, nobody has as many scenes as me. I am the new scene master. Michael Tennell can suck it. I hope he's in here and he heard that. I bet he isn't. So those are my scenes, and what I was going to look at was something in here. So yes, tools. This is the WebSocket plugin that's embedded in the Snap, and that is the WebSocket that this app can speak to. This app is called, gosh, can Martin remember the name of the app? I'm going to disconnect the app. It's called Stream Control. Now I know that, I'll go and find it in the Play Store. But I have a cheap Android tablet here, and this let me just get on the right virtual screen. I'm going to have to explain why I always moan about the virtual screens at some point. So Stream Control, Google Play. Hopefully that's the right one. This is it. So this tool is terrific. This is what I use for doing all of the scene transitions, because there's none of that worry about what windows are focused. You can run this on your phone. You know, my tablet's obviously on Wi-Fi, but it's talking directly to the PC. It doesn't matter what's going on. This has been super reliable scene transition, and as you can see, you can configure it with start recording, stop recording, and a whole bunch of stuff. You can even do previews of what you're broadcasting. So I think this cost like £3 or something, and it's absolutely worth every penny. It's great. I bought my Stream Decks before I knew this was a thing, and I think I could get away without using a Stream Deck and just use this. But I do use the Stream Deck as I have it. It's just a convenience. So that's my pro tip for controlling your stream. So hopefully our podcast, I've answered your questions about like how I control stuff. Yeah, and you use the same. So our podcast, you're using nested scenes, good job, and you're using prefixes, also good job. Yeah, nested scenes, they're the business. Hey Luke, welcome back. Lovely to see you. Hope you and your family are well. Miss you. I don't know what I've started, Ferren. Have I started Nested Scene Wars, do you think? I throw that gauntlet down. Okay, McPhail, Mycroft. Yeah. The thing about this solution is I want it to be reliable. So that's how I'm controlling all of that. So if we just switch back to the OBS, this is so confusing. That one, yes. Okay, so WebSockets, it's dead useful. I love it a lot. Now the other thing I do, one of these things is going to be up here, to be perfectly obvious. Here's how I organise my audio. I have a source for my mic, and I actually create these as scenes. So I create a scene with just my mic in it, and a scene with just my desktop audio in it, and then a scene for the music audio, and I'll get back to that in just a moment, and then another scene for capture cam, and that's because one of the capture devices I use is for external devices. So that's the one that may have an audio feed as well. So I separate all of those out so those volumes can all be controlled and mixed separately. And if we come back to this one, what I've done is I've written a little script that starts the Spotify client and then binds the output of that to a discrete pulse audio sync so that the music can be manipulated separately. And the reason that's useful is that some scenes I only want music in it. I don't want desktop audio. And those of you that were listening a couple of months ago when Popey and I did a stream together, you could hear us talking to each other whilst the getting started screen was up, and this is my solution to that. I can guarantee there's only music happening on those transition screens now. So that's how I organise audio. Try and break it up as much as you can, and then you just embed those as nested scenes as you need them in scenes where you want your audio to be presented. Speak his name and he shall appear. Apparently, Michael, I am the scene master. I'll tell you what, look, I'll just scroll up and down. This is, oh goodness, I need to be on the right virtual screen. I've got virtual screens as well. Have you got virtual screens? These are my scenes here. If I just go through these, because I can actually do that. So this is just a backdrop, and you'll be familiar with that because it's what sits behind me. If I actually switch my scene back to like the big camera with the chat, you can see there is that backdrop there, in fact. And what's going on here is a few things. So that is a backdrop in this case. And on this screen, if I minimize this here, oh, I've got too many things. There we go. So you can see the same backdrop. But on this screen, the collage is... it's actually this. So I have a virtual screen. So here are my screens that I've got configured. Hopefully that's on the right display. It is. So screen 1 is underneath my two screens here, and it's a 1080p resolution screen, and it's an output on the HDMI of my graphics card directly into the capture card. And I have, this is the wallpaper on that screen. So it brings everything together so it all looks cohesive, like it's one presentation. And that is what enables me to keep this consistent backdrop across everything, because what are composited scenes with that backdrop on some scenes, and then on these captured devices, they're actually a wallpaper at the exact same resolution. So that's how I've done that. I'll just get rid of that. We don't need that up anymore. So what I can do is, this is an instance of OBS that I can control separately from the stream. So here is my intro scene, and I'm just going to run this. I'm obviously going to stay on the screen, but you'll see what happens. So this intro will run, and when this finishes, it will automatically switch to the starting scene. So what I've got here is I've got a number of scenes that have automatic transitions to other scenes, so I don't have to constantly be pushing the buttons. I know when the intro runs, I automatically want it to go to the starting scene, for example. And similarly, if I click on the ending scene here, you'll see this for a few seconds, and usually about now I'm hitting the fade down, and then it goes to the outro scene. Oh, this is going to be fine. It's okay. I got panicked then, but this is a different instance, so it's fine. It will then run the outro, and then you'll see it clicks to all white, all black, and it also then goes back to collage. And the other thing that happens is when it hits the all black scene, it actually automatically triggers stop recording, stop streaming. So I don't have to. And what I use to handle all of that is advanced scene switcher. So I have some sequences here, and here we go. You can see here, let's find the intro one. That's probably the easy. Oops, I've just changed a bunch of things. I didn't mean to do that. That's annoying. There we go. Big, yeah, that's what it should be. So it says here, when ending, activate switch to the outro screen after 5 seconds and use this stinger transition to do it. So I have a number of those set up so that I don't have to deal with that. And some of these in here, you'll notice when I'm in some of the scenes, it will automatically put up little animations of YouTube subscriptions. So, I'm on this. So if I click this, I'll trigger this manually. In my other thing, hang on a second. This is very complicated for me. I'm looking at a lot of stuff on the screen right now. So I'm on code chat. So if I do this, you see this animation run. I just manually invoked that. But I've got this programmed, so on an interval, it will automatically play those in and then switch back to the scene it came from. So I don't have to keep saying, like, comment, subscribe, and all of that stuff. It just does it for you. Right, I'm just going to try and catch up on chat. Okay. Yannick's going to referee. I approve. I think Switzerland is the appropriate choice for being impartial in any such adjudication. Yes, Yannick, the snap is Jack enabled because you submitted the pull request to do it. Jack 1, I believe. I've never used it. I'm not a Jack expert. I found it easier to manipulate Pulse Audio than learn Jack. Hello, Mr. Langridge. So when you switch, which app is on screen? What are you doing? When I bring different applications into the foreground, you mean? So what I'm doing there is I'm using Alt-Tab. So you are currently looking, the OBS behind me is on a screen that doesn't exist beneath where I'm looking now. And as I Alt-Tab, the Alt-Tab window is put on my primary monitor, which you can't see. And it's only for the things that are in this workspace. So I can, for example, bring up the browser by Alt-Tabbing through and selecting the application I want to bring to the foreground. Hopefully that makes sense. And hopefully it answers your question. Yeah, I mean, so our podcast, I started super simple with just mic and desktop audio, and then, ran into some issues and, figured out other things. Michael Tennell, you fibber. I don't believe you. Prove it. Pictures or it never happened. Just catching up, just bear with me. What's the plugin that does the automatic scene switching? Hopefully I've answered that. It's the advanced scene switcher. And there's another one that I use as well, the transition override matrix. So this is the worst user interface in the world ever, but it's a super powerful plugin. So you can say here on this grid, so it says down here, rows are the origin and columns are the destination. So you find where you're going from and to, and you can stipulate exactly what transition or stinger you want when moving between those scenes. And that's terrific for, just making a rather comprehensive set of different transitions for different things. So hopefully I've answered that. Advanced scene switcher is awesome. Yeah. Yes, Michael, I'm using the Snap, which has all of the stuff bundled built in. Yeah, Yannick, that was you. Well done. Tiago, I think this is the advanced tour, is the beginner's tour. Yeah, this is a sort of an overview of everything, because I know there's some people in here, particularly our podcast, that really wanted to dig into this stuff, but I'll be breaking these down as individual topics that just cover the discrete bits and pieces. So look out for those videos. Get subscribed, and then you won't miss them when I publish them. Okay, I do have more plugins. Yeah, there's about 20 plugins built in. So yeah, I have a virtual monitor, a fake monitor, and that's what I'm streaming. It has the advantage that there's no panels or docks or anything. It's just a 1080p blank canvas. Can you use... Oh, McPhail. You're trolling me, right? I imagine so, but why would I do that when somebody's written a perfectly good plugin? So language asks, so you're alt tabbing, get that. So if the thing that's being streamed is a fake monitor that you can't see, then how do I get to see the stream screen and click on stuff? I'm looking at OBS with the composited scene in front of me. My monitors are 1440p. I have two of them. So I can have a full screen OBS with the composited virtual 1080 screen inside it. And I'm actually looking at OBS when I'm driving that screen that doesn't exist. Does that answer your question? I realise it's super funky and probably, you know, a little bit idiosyncratic. So, just started with this transition matrix. Okay, found out the hard way. You need to click on this. Yeah, they're tough, right? It's not great, but once it's set up, it's very powerful. Momentary break. Okay, hello Monica, welcome. Oh, Monica, you're here. Hang on a moment. I think I can click on your... Everyone stop typing. Add moderator. Yes, it's done. Right, Monica's now a moderator of the chat. I tried to do that last night, Monica, and I couldn't find it anywhere, and then somebody says you have to click on people when they're in the chat. There we go. Woot, you've now got the appropriate colour. So, have I had problems with window capture and NVIDIA cards? No, I can't. No, I haven't, is the answer to that question. Okay, McPhail. So, McPhail wasn't trolling about MQTT, apparently. So, the one thing I have noticed is that doing what I'm doing, which is actually capturing a whole screen, the performance is... the performance is not the best. So it's okay for like demoing desktops and Windows and applications, but for game streaming, I did bump into performance headroom on my old system. And I before I got the new system, I did actually have to do a whole bunch of stuff to optimize the way my scenes were composed to overcome that. And I'll make a video about optimizing OBS. You can see here, you can see the stats behind me. This fake one is rendering scenes in 0.8 milliseconds. The actual thing that's being streamed is doing all of what you can see now. Frames are being rendered in 5 milliseconds. But the old system was getting up to 12, 14 milliseconds, which is a bit like on frame dropping boundaries. Right, so I'm just going to check my notes here. You've mentioned some hardware. I've talked about nested scenes and auto transitions and the audio and the Spotify stuff. So you started asking about hardware. Let's take a quick look at what I'm doing there. So I've got a quad capture card in this machine now. So I have two cameras connected to it for overhead and in front of me. I have that virtual monitor on one of those, and then I have a fourth one that is a HDMI that is presented at the back here, which I can plug Raspberry Pi and other computers into, so I can bring another device into the mix as well. And I was using a dual capture version of this card. And oh, see, I'm on the wrong monitor. So this is I'll just put this to one side a second. This is the card that I was using, this dual HDMI version, and now I'm using the quad HDMI version. Now, using these is brilliant. They're great devices, but they're super spendy. So I can't say I would recommend them to people because they're mega expensive. But what I have been doing is working on this piece of jank here, which if you subscribe to my Instagram, you will find me, I just need to get my face out of shot. You will find a photo journal of me taking these apart and putting them together. These are HDMI to USB capture devices, and I've got these for £3.99 each. And they're good, not great. But if you're plugging a camera in, they're good enough. They'll do 1080p 30, 720p 60. More than good enough for hooking up a camera to. Not so great for capturing desktop because they're MJPEG and you get a bit of JPEG artifacting in the video. But I made this quad capture device for less than 50 quid. So, you know, that's quite good because these are all USB 2 in a USB 3 hub. And I added some additional cooling. I took them apart and put some thermal pads in them. So that's a little thing I'm working on. It works, but you know. And when I started, I had a webcam, and I've switched to a mirrorless camera setup since. Right, and I've got the Magewell USB one as well, which is excellent. Again, it's expensive, but they're really good. The Magewell equipment is excellent. I know a lot of people are talking about the Elgato stuff a lot at the moment. You know, I mean, Elgato do make good kit. I've got lots of their equipment. My green screen is Elgato. My lights are Elgato. I'm using their multi-mount things to rig all the camera equipment onto. But I don't think their capture devices represent good value. I think they're a bit expensive for what they are. So yeah. So that's the capture devices. So it's in the description of this video, you'll find affiliate links which should take you to your local regional Amazon for the things that I've got. And if you end up buying any of those things, it doesn't cost you any extra, but I get a little bit of a kickback. But I've listed all of the main items that I'm using or have used that I would recommend to people with Linux, because I know they're like absolutely compatible with Linux. And if you're looking for a list of Linux compatible stuff, I've also got this that I set up. So amazon.co.uk/shop/mwimpress. Maybe I'll put that in chat for those of you that are here, so you can see it a bit more clearly. Oh gosh, off the screen. There we go. And that is that's broken down into a number of topics, and all of this stuff is Linux compatible stuff that I've got and tested and know works. So there's a whole bunch of random stuff in there. So all Linux compatible. So I just thought I'd mention that because there's more camera related gubbins in there as well. So that's the camera devices, and I've described the things. So that was like my quick overview of, you know, what and let's just move back here. That's the quick overview of, like, you know, how I've got things set up. So if we look at let's just go back here. If we look at one of these, we look at a scene, for example. Let's look at the intermission. And that's why I said this would get confusing because I've just made the mistake that I didn't expect to make. Right, let's try that again. Sorry for that. So I was saying about how I organise like the scenes and things. So if we just take a little look at one of them. So if we take a look at the intermission scene, this is a standard thing that has a bunch of sources in it. So it's got the music in it, the desktop audio is muted, and then there's various bits that, you know, drive all of this. The animated bit here, that's actually a browser source. That's a Stream Elements overlay that I'm pulling in. And in fact, these lines, top and bottom here, the blue and green that slowly animate, they're also browser sources. So they're CSS and HTML animations that I bring in as browser sources rather than trying to figure out how to do animated GIFs and things of that nature. So this is, you know, a fairly dense thing, and then I've got the visualizer for when the audio is playing. You can't see that here because there's no audio playing inside this version. And then you can see here I've got a visualizer left, which is a mirror. So one of the filters that I have can mirror other sources. So we just mirror the right one and then invert it, and then you don't have to process that visualizer twice, and they're in perfect sync with one another. So, and then from those I can then derive things like the starting scene. So the starting scene pulls in the nested intermission scene, and then the only thing it adds is the text at the top. And so that's how all of my intermediate scenes are. How many? Oh, lots. I think so. Sorry, I've just seen Michael's question. He's asking how many browser sub-processes are running. I will find out. Hang on. I know that when I start this, it's nearly 300 threads that get spawned total. So let's see if we can see this. Let's just move the chat to one side. So here we go. We're looking at 297. So this is the one that's actually streaming at the moment, the top one. So there's 297 threads on the OBS instance that's streaming to you at the moment. And it's going to be difficult to pull apart the browser pages because there's multiple versions of OBS running here at the moment. So I can't give you an accurate number on that. I'll have to do it later. Join the Discord, and I'll put it in the Linux streaming section a bit later on. I'll let you know. It's a lot. That is the answer. Any performance hit with browser sources? There can be. So let's pick a browser source. Let's find a nice easy one. Here we go, Discord co-hosts. This has got a browser source. And what I noticed was this, and this is true for images, videos, and browser sources. There's an option to shut down a source when it's not visible. Always enable that. I really ran into a massive performance issue. To the point where I almost couldn't stream reliably. It was dropping so many frames. And the solution was to go through every single scene and source, and almost everywhere, there was a couple where I needed to leave it on, but almost everywhere, ticking that box that says, you know, disable this image, video, browser source when it's not in use, brought back like 80% of the performance. So that's not always the default to tick that box in some of these things. So tick that, you get acres of performance back. So that was something that I ran into a couple of months ago. It was driving me mad, and it was hard to identify the root cause of the problem. Right, so what have I missed here? Let's get rid of bpytop. We don't need that going. So let's just... am I using a Blue Yeti? Right, so I have a Blue Yeti Pro, which is, my finger is touching the underside of it now, and that's on an arm that reaches over, and that, if I just go to the overhead cam, that comes in via XLR here into my mixer, so I can control that here with knobs and buttons and what have you. And that's actually, you raise an interesting point there, because in OBS 26, and something I could have showed you earlier, they introduced a new audio filter, which is terrific, and I'm currently using. So I just need to think about what thing I'm bringing into focus now, because I'm getting horribly confused. I've actually closed. Have I closed it? Oh, you silly boy. I have closed it. One moment. Right, there we go. Hopefully that is now back on screen again. Let's just pull this up. So on my mic audio, I have some filters applied, and those are noise suppression, which is this RN noise, which is an AI noise filter, similar to, you know, NVIDIA Voice or RTX Broadcast or whatever they're calling it now. So I have that on, and that does, you know, kill out the key presses and people doing construction across the way, and maybe that dog that was just barking. I don't know if you heard that or not. And then I use compression, just as we would in the podcast, and then I apply a little bit of gain to all of that, just to boost things. Like you, I was thinking of getting a shotgun mic, but with these three things, I think I get close enough to the performance of a shotgun mic without having to invest in another microphone. So I'm just going to stick with this at the moment. Hopefully that that covers that off. Let's have a look then. So someone's asking, CSS RGBA makes the background. I'd always have problems with YouTube. So the YouTube comments that we have up and running here, I'm using a website. In fact, I'll bring this up. There's a website where you can go and style the YouTube chat. So if we look at the YouTube browser source, there it is there, but the more interesting thing is this. You will see in the custom CSS there's a whole bunch of stuff in here. So there's a website where you can go and change the fonts and the colors and all the rest of it, and it generates a bunch of CSS for you, and you paste it in there, and you include your YouTube chat as a browser source, and then that CSS overrides it to make it look how you want it to. And that's you know, what I've done there to sort of improve the look and feel of things. Yeah, so I do use Stream Elements. I've experimented with Streamlabs and Stream Elements. Streamlabs wasn't super reliable, and Stream Elements is way more powerful. So, for example, just bear with me a moment. Let me see if I can do this. YouTube. Yep, that'll do it. So, loading. Golly gosh, wow, what's this doing? There we go. So I've created some overlays. So if I do this, this is me. There we go. So that was me triggering an alert. and that's a browser source from Stream Elements, and there's 2 browser sources that have been triggered there. One to do the alert, and then one to do the Tux subtrain at the bottom of the screen. And this is also me. I'll make it plainly clear it's me. So I can also do this. So you can use Stream Elements to, you know, design your overlays and play them back, and it's a whole web-based thing. So as I'm triggering these, I see them in the web here, and then I see them here. And what's quite amusing is sometimes I'm working on OBS in the evening, tweaking things, and there's people subscribing to the channel, and these alerts going off in the background. So yeah, Stream Elements I really like. There's a couple of things. It's very much leans towards Twitch rather than YouTube at the moment, but other than that, it's pretty great. And you can use Streamlabs and Stream Elements at the same time, of course, which I was doing for a bit, but I found that Streamlabs wasn't very reliable, so I stopped using it. Let's just bring that up there. So okay, good. I'm glad you didn't hear the dog. That means that the AI works. And do you have a virtual webcam? So yeah, the answer to that question is yes. And in fact, this is an interesting point. So in the Snap, you will find the plugin to do video for Linux output is there, which enables you to effectively take what's being composited by OBS and put it out to a fake video for Linux device. Now, this mostly works. But I just read a couple of days ago that OBS 26.1 is in release candidate, and they've merged the integrated Linux virtual webcam stuff. I haven't experimented with it yet, but I'll obviously be dropping this plugin to use the built-in virtual webcam stuff. So I wasn't going to touch on that today because I think there's something better coming. But hopefully that answers that question. Hello Esme. You presume RN Noise is open source? Yes, RN Noise is an entirely open AI based noise filter and it works very well, I have to say. And RN Noise is just in OBS. That's consistent across Mac, Linux and Windows versions. So our podcast is asking if I use any bots. Yes, I do. And there it is. In fact, the Stream Elements bot has just told you to go and subscribe to my Facebook page. Don't bother doing that. I never update it. But yes, I use mostly I use the bots to do this, to put prompts in the chat so that I don't have to continually do those things. And the Stream Elements bots can be quite sophisticated, so you can have it look for common questions. Like if you're a really popular streamer, not me by the way, if you're a really popular streamer and you get asked the same question all the time, you can compose stock responses and the bots will answer those questions for people. So I'm just watching this. 999888. Okay, so you've been an Ubuntu user and listening to the Ubuntu podcast for years now. Well, brilliant. Thank you for listening. Right. Be aware, there's a new kernel bug. Yes, I think I'm aware of this because I've actually built the loopback stuff in a PP. In a newer version of that loopback thing in a PPA. Let me find that for you. I don't know what I built it for. It was a little while ago I did this because I ran into this issue. Let's see if we can find it. Oh, that was what we were doing last night. We don't need all of that. So, there we go, V4L loopback. I built this for focal. So, what you're using our podcast, let me know. I'll build it for an appropriate Ubuntu version for you. But I think this version fixes the issue that you have run into, because I did too. Right, so this version then, this PPA is suitable. So that's me on Launchpad, flexion.org. Right, are there any other outstanding questions? Because if not, that was kind of the quick overview I wanted to get out there for people that have been asking questions. Hopefully that's enough to get people started, or at least answer some of the popular questions. Yes, Yannick, because you've already got the newer version of V4L loopback in 2010. Our podcast, I'm glad that was helpful, and I will now potter off and start working on some discrete videos to cover off some of those things in a little bit more detail, but bite size. Jonathan asks, oh, Jonathan, you're still here. I'm surprised. I thought Monica was going to kick you. I thought she was going to abuse her new powers. Did you have a chance to cover how you're doing the green screen? Okay. That is a good question. So I didn't talk about green screens, but let me show you how I do it. So the first and most important thing is it's not to do with the technology. The technology does the last bit, and I will explain. I'm just going to make this little OBS a bit smaller so that I can see the chat a bit more clearly as I'm doing this. So the most important thing when doing green screen is lighting. So it doesn't matter if you've got a fancy camera or a webcam, which is what I started with. The best results you're going to get with the green screen is when you've got decent lighting. And I've got glasses, and the thing that I struggle with is catching lots of reflection. So you can't have lights right in front of you and all of that sort of thing, apart from anything else that overexposes you and blows you out. So you want to get an even light on the green screen behind you. I've done that by, I've got some ceiling lights, and they actually shine at the wall that's in front of my desk, and it bounces the light off the wall at me to give a diffused light source. And then I have a couple of small lights which are at sort of knee height, and they illuminate the rest of the green screen to try and give it an even coverage. So lights is where you need to start. But once you do that, this is how I do the green screen. So let's yes, if I bring up this here. Right, so we are now looking at the other OBS that I'm not broadcasting with, and as you can see, I'm green screened out there. So let's edit this one here. We'll go into the filters. So this is the filter for this thing. So I'm going to turn the chroma key off. In fact, I'll turn this off first, and you'll see it just changes the hue slightly. And then I'm going to turn the chroma key off. And now you can see the green screen behind me. And apart from this spot down here, as I move my hand out of the way, which is a little dark corner, that is the green screen. This is right here. You can see, hopefully now I'm actually touching it. So, and also my wife put this up for me. This is a green screen. It's suspended from the ceiling on some chains, and so there's a bar and the green screen, and then you pull the green screen down like a blind, which is great because it makes it really... I found that the fewer things you have in your way to get a live stream going, the more likely you are to do it. So I can just pull the thing down and it's done. So there's the green screen. But if we look at the chroma key, I will actually redo the key. So I will set this to defaults, which will work fine. So that's the defaults, and I'll turn the chroma key on. And as you can see, that's pretty reasonable. But the way I do it is this. I say use a custom color, select a color, and then I pick something that is broadly representative of the average color of the screen. There. And when I turn the filter on, you will notice something alarming happens. Everything disappears. And that's fine. What you then do is you run the similarity down until, as if by magic, you start to appear. And then you tinker with the smoothness until things are right. You can't do this in this tinier window. I usually have the preview window on a second screen, full resolution, because you can see much more clearly how to do it. And then you adjust the color spill to get rid of the green sort of hints and edges here. I haven't done this properly, I'm just demonstrating very quickly. And then the last piece that I do is I use this RGB levels, which is a plugin that I've added to the Snap. And if I just turn this on, you'll notice that it just restores the blue and the red a little bit. And that's because obviously with a green screen you're actually removing a color. The reason I do this custom thing is, as you can see, you can get the similarity quite low, so you're actually like limiting the range of green that you're pulling out of the image. So that's the way I found to do it and get not the best, but a decent green screen. So that's how I do it. Is that helpful? Green screens in 3 minutes or less. You're welcome, Jonathan. I'm glad that was helpful. Hi, Mayor. How you doing? Right, I'm glad you all enjoyed it. So, I am going to, unless another question comes up in the next few seconds, I'm going to say thanks everyone for stopping by. Hopefully that gives you a few tips and reference points on how to get started, driving OBS on Linux. And if you want to continue the conversation, there's a Discord channel in the description below. I'll be hopping over there now into the community center, and we can have a bit of a chat if you want to. And if you're not subscribed, please do subscribe, because I'm going to be putting together a bunch of shorter videos digging into some of this stuff. So if this was interesting to you, then please do get subscribed. And with that, I'm going to say thank you. Thanks for all the kind words. Glad you enjoyed it. And we'll call it there. I'll see you in the next one. Bye for now.